When we last left you, we were in Montrose, Colorado after spending some time hiking in the Rocky Mountains for my birthday. Now that we're in Montrose, it's time to start the Rimwrecker Trail. The Rimwrecker is a 160-mile route that traverses beautiful and remote sections of land all the way from Montrose, Colorado to Moab, Utah. The majority of the route is made up of dirt roads, just the way we like it. We are in Montrose to start the Rimwrecker Trail, which is a 4x4 off-road road that goes from here in Montrose, Colorado, all the way out to Moab, Utah. We are starting in the evening because we had a myriad of errands that we had to run today, but we're just gonna go about a little less than 20 miles in, so we're not going to go far, but we're going to take a couple of days to do it so we don't have to move too fast and can enjoy the scenery along the way. Those first 15 miles were made up of smooth dirt road and honestly didn't take very long, but we still managed to get to camp after dark because we left Montrose too late. We hit the hay early that night just to be sure we gave ourselves a head start for the next day.
So we woke up early this morning to get started on the trail. Oh, there's some cows. We're gonna head up this plateau this morning and make some breakfast and hang out for a little bit and enjoy the views and make our way to Nukla after that. We decided to head out early this morning from our campground and eat breakfast on top of the plateau just because our campground was really nothing to write home about. So we're just gonna move on.
After driving about 15 miles this morning, we were headed to a campsite to see if we could just spend the morning making coffee and breakfast there. And it was on top of a plateau, but didn't really have a view. So we decided to press on just a couple more miles and ended up here. And this was definitely a good choice to press on a little bit further. But we just wrapped up breakfast and have a little bit more coffee. But I think as soon as we're done with all of that, we will get back on trail. We recently got a new drone under warranty because we were having issues with our original one, and the brand new one is already having issues again and happens to be the exact same problem we were having with the last one. So we potentially are not going to have as much amazing drone footage, unfortunately, for the rest of this trail, which is, don't get me started. After breakfast, we had a short drive before we hit pavement again and hit the town of Nukla. We also decided to make a small detour to see the town of Naturita. Sadly, there wasn't much happening in these sleepy little towns, and we were a little too early for lunch, so we decided to press on. So we have come through Nukla and Naturita, and we are now on the other side, the western side, I guess. And we just stopped for a quick bite to eat, and Luna got absolutely covered in burrs in her 2-second walk that she took from the front of the cab down to the back of the camper. And we've attempted to extract as many of them as humanly possible, but oh my god, there's burrs in her mouth. That's gonna take a long time. And our next stop is camp for the night, and we have no idea how far it is, but we'll get there definitely at a reasonable time, which will be nice. We can enjoy the sunset. The remainder of the drive took us to the first bits of rough road and what was marked as a deep water crossing. For us, it was completely dry. But I imagine during the spring and summer, there's a fair bit of snowmelt and actually might make this an obstacle of any kind. Eventually, we made it to the rim of the canyon where we had great views of the valley below. We set up camp right on the edge of the cliff and enjoyed a sunset and fancy feast. And we're not talking about cat food, I promise. Fancy feast is this thing that we made up where you get a bottle of wine, some cheese, charcuterie, and some other delightful little snacks and enjoy a great view and a sunset. We're adults, aren't we?
Last night we made camp just shy of Highway 141 on the Rimrocker. We're probably 100 yards from 3 or 4 mines over there, and we camped out right here, and there's a cliff just behind the truck. And we had an amazing view last night for sunset where we had dinner, and this morning where we had coffee.
We spent the morning walking around the mines that were in direct proximity to our campsite, as well as the surrounding area. It was fascinating to see everything that had been left behind and the mines themselves. It is possible that we got a little closer than we should have. After exploring the mines, we made our way down to Highway 141 through some more fun roads.
This morning we did the last little section of the Rimrocker from Nucla to Highway 141, and when we got to Highway 141 we went south and we're doing a few detours here and there to see some sights and some other points of interest before we head back up and hop back on the trail.
This beautiful little valley is full of so many interesting sights. We stopped at an old coke oven that was used to convert green coal to coke coal. Then we made our way down to an overlook of the confluence of the San Miguel and Dolores rivers.
Mac has just dared me to walk across this balance beam, so I'm gonna do it. No questions asked.
I definitely did not do that.
I just successfully walked across the balance beam. It was pretty amazing. Right?
No. The next stop was the town, or should I say, former town of Uravan.
So, this is all that remains of the town of Uravan, Colorado. It was basically demolished in the 80s when I guess the government decided that it wasn't safe. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now.
The history around this area is super interesting. So if you want some real facts, not just some stuff that Owen made up, you can pause here and read the sign. I highly recommend it. The last detour we made was to the Hanging Flume. The flume was constructed in the late 1800s to carry water 5 miles upstream to a mining operation on the banks of the Dolores River. They've reconstructed a small section so people can see what the Hanging Flume used to look like when it was in use. After the flume, we made it back to the Rimrocker Trail and continued on. The trail climbed up the other side of the valley and took us past some old, abandoned radium mines. There was plenty of fun driving, and we also got to see some great views of Paradox Valley. From there, we drove through some forest before arriving at our home for the night at Buckeye Reservoir. After leaving Highway 141, we got back on trail, and I think that we did about 2 or 3 hours of driving. It was probably the most technical driving we've had so far. It was really fun, and saw a couple more mines on the way. I think one of them mined uranium, which is insane. And we've ended up here at Buckeye Recreation Area, and as soon as we picked our camp spot, we took Luna for a little bit of a walk, and yeah, now we're in hangout mode.
This morning we woke up at Buckeye Reservoir, and now we're heading out after we packed up camp. We had a nice morning with coffee and breakfast, and today we'll be crossing into Utah on the Rimrocker, and from there we will go a little bit further and we'll split ways with the Rimrocker at 2 Mile Road, where we will then head off onto the highway and hit Moab.
The drive that morning took us through some wide open spaces with clear views of the La Salle Mountains, which happened to have gotten snow the night before. We also made our way through forests of yellowing aspens. It was all smooth sailing, and we wrapped up the trail pretty early that morning. We split ways with the Rimrocker Trail at 2 Mile Road and then started towards Moab, Utah. In Moab, we planned to get some work done, but more importantly, we wanted to explore some parts of Canyonlands that we hadn't been to before. Our story doesn't end there.
We just scared the poop out of her.
So we'll see you down the road.
I just wanted to go ahead and explain why we opted to exit the Rimrocker early and not go all the way to Moab. When I was doing research on the trail, the next section of the trail was described as an overly bumpy cobblestone road. And then a little bit further, it said that it got pretty narrow, and that was coming from someone in a vehicle much smaller than Roxy. So because of those two factors, we opted to go ahead and exit and then make our way to Moab on pavement, just so we didn't have to deal with any sort of unpleasantness.
Come here. We'd make the cutest friends if only they'd let me. One day a cow will let me love it.